Story 1. I swallowed my pride, asked for help when I had to, and promised myself I would not stay there forever. Story 2. I downloaded every app one could find for instant work and daily pay. For about 3 months, I lived like a hermit until I could pull myself out of that state. I sold everything that wasn't bolted to the floor. When we are doing well, we tend to overconsume, but being mindful during those times can really help you get through the lows. Start by listing items on Facebook Marketplace. I sold my sofa there and found a used one the very next day for free. It was a leather-type material, so I cleaned it up and added a sofa cover. The same with my dining table set. I sold mine and found another one in great condition, also on Marketplace. Once you get past the broke stage, plan ahead. Start building an emergency fund. Even $5 here and there adds up quicker than you think. All of this happened after my divorce. It was tough, but I made it through. Story 3. Before my credit deteriorated, I opened multiple balance transfer credit cards to buy time until I was making real income. At my lowest point, I had $38,000 in credit card debt. I made $8,500 the entire year. The balance transfer credit cards saved me. Towards the very end, I was so broke I was using the cash back from one credit card to pay the minimum on another. But those cards bought me enough time to pay off chunks of debt when I was making an income. It took 3.5 years, but I paid it all off, got engaged, married, and bought our first home on Long Island. My credit score went from the low 600s to over 750. Most people would have ended up in financial ruin, but that is because they do not explore options or try to be creative. Credit Karma was a massive help. Financial advisors who do not charge a fee for service, which is most of them, will give you advice to get you on the right track. Story 4. Taco Bell free burrito with new account kept me fed. I slept in a car and public libraries as a student, and gyms provide showers. It was not the worst experience, and I hope things improve for others in similar situations as they did for me. Story 5. Chances are, if you are even responding here, you are an incredible survivor. Poverty literally kills people daily and probably always will. That said, I ate much less, lost over 30 pounds, and worked at Publix and Domino's all 7 days of the week, as well as DoorDash whenever I could. Even that is not as bad as what other people experience. Having a difficult job and the means to DoorDash is somewhat a privilege, as you need a working car to do all of that. Poverty is one of the most silent killers in the world, as nearly all deaths, including heart attacks, can be at least partially or even fully blamed on poverty or the stress it brings. People say money doesn't buy happiness, but literally, you need it to live in most societies unless you are a master of living off the grid or on the streets. Story 6. I was homeless. I slept in my car until it got towed. I maintained a gym membership and a library card. That gave me a shower, a place to work out, a place to rest my eyes during the day, and free computer used to update my resume, study, and apply for jobs. Food pantries have canned goods. I kept a can opener and a microwavable bowl. Most gas stations have a microwave for free use. I ate a lot of canned vegetables, beans, and eggs when I could afford them. You can make scrambled eggs in the microwave. I kept a retail job and a waitressing job. I saved as much money as possible. Eventually, I ended up in Job Corps. Best decision ever. Story 7. I really do not know. I was done with everything, ready to leave. When I look back at it, it seems that the moment I really gave up and stopped caring, the universe started making better things happen. It is hard to comprehend, but I am still riding that wave. The trick seems to be to have a complete lack of concern. Story 8. Worked more and consumed less. Reduced living expenses to a science by calculating the daily operating cost. Story 9. Plasma donations. Craigslist jobs. Focus and study groups. I did not eat much. When I did, it was usually a pack of ramen for 20 cents. Story 10. I have survived on tins of beans with spices and potatoes or bread. Maybe some cheese if I had an extra couple of dollars. As long as my rent and bills are paid, I am in a good financial position in my opinion. Story 11. I hated doing it, but moved back home until I was back on my feet. It took about 3 months of sleeping in my parents' basement to get everything back in shape and move back out. Story 12. The grocery store bakery behind the place where I was living used to throw out pastries every night around 11 p.m. While it was against the rules, the workers there would bag them up and put them outside the back door instead of in the dumpster for me. That kept me fed for a while. Rice and beef stew used to be a staple for me. When I was homeless, getting the money together for a gym membership was a godsend. Story 13. Multiple dishwashing jobs, sold drugs to college students at a high markup, specifically targeting honors dorms and students. Rented a former 400-square-foot crack house. Eventually graduated to handling bodies and providing care at a poor-quality hospital. Food budget was $3 a day. Raided a Panera dumpster regularly. This paid for my community college. I am now a millionaire in 2025, having bought and sold land. My salary is a little over $200,000, working in healthcare system management. I do not believe this is possible in today's economy, so I do not know how some of you are surviving. Housing is a serious problem. My $350 per month crack house situation, which was, hey, you know how to drywall? If I drop off materials and you renovate for free, I won't ask questions, does not really exist anymore. You all need 3 roommates who are working closely together with their budget. Seems miserable. Going solo and taking massive risks does not seem to be an option anymore. I would 100% be in jail or dead if I reset the clock by 24 years and was 17 again trying to claw my way out in today's world. Story 14. Surveys. I have done them for years and have made well over a few $1,000s. If you would like to know which ones I use specifically, send me a direct message. My selections are pretty lengthy. I have 2 linked to my profile, which are my favorites. Story 15. I sent emailed complaints to large big box stores, grocery stores, chain restaurants, and other major companies. It did not always work. Sometimes they wanted proof of purchase, at which point I gave up on that company. Others would send a $25 to $50 gift card with no real questions asked. This provided me with groceries, takeout food, clothing, and other essentials. Story 16. It is crazy to think that when our bodies need nourishment the most, before the age of about 22, we starve ourselves to survive. I wonder what kind of physical and developmental stagnation this causes. Story 17. A lot of late fees. Food pantry help. I did get assistance from the Department of Social Services with power once. I had 3 children, so the roof was the first priority. Food was the second. We acquired everything we needed through thrift stores or yard sales. I also used coupons extensively. I could spend $10 on newspapers and get most of our hygiene, cleaning, paper products, and a lot of food for free. It was a hustle. Story 18. I have $473 to my name. I'm sitting at an extended stay hotel. Why? Because I wanted to drink. My family is supportive, but support doesn't mean healthy, if you catch my drift. I left my apartment 4 days ago by choice. I gave everything away. I have nothing left but what is in the trunk of my car. Oh yes, and I am 50 years old. I felt I needed a shakeup. My life has been full of bad choices after bad choices my whole adult life. I like to blame my childhood trauma, but I am 50. I can't use that excuse anymore. This is my life now, not what happened to me. So here I sit doing what has destroyed the last 6 years of my life. Drinking. But it's the only thing that deadens the demons that lurk under the surface. It's a surface not many will ever see, and most never admit to if they see them in themselves. Again, I'm chasing a tomorrow that is always in my rearview as I drive in reverse. My past doesn't chase me, I back into it. I survive by a quote. Do today what you promised yourself yesterday you would do tomorrow. Confusing? You bet it is. But for some reason I can't live by it. I live against it. Story 19. I was in the military, so even when I had no money in my bank account, I had a roof over my head and a chow hall for tolerable food. That was back in the late 1990s. I cannot imagine how hard it is for young people today. Story 20. Raided dumpsters. Restaurants for food, Home Depot and IKEA for furniture and wood to burn, smoke shops and corner stores for items to trade with other homeless people. Apartment complexes in nice neighborhoods were great too, with items like blankets, shoes, and bicycles. Story 21. My roommate worked at a farm cooperative and we ate a lot of vegetable stew made from excess produce that was given out. We also had many mushroom Swiss sandwiches. Story 22. Year after high school, I stayed in my empty family's home where I once lived for 2 years. I had half a tank of gas in an old Chevrolet car. I drove only to work and immediately shut the car off each day. On days when the food bank was open, I walked there from work because I needed the gas badly. On days off, I would walk an hour to town just for something to do or try to pick up day jobs. I was working poor for a short period. I am proud to say our mortgage is 3 years away from being paid off, and we are on track to be debt-free 2 years after that. I am 39. Story 23. I do not know how I did it. I just had to work myself nearly into the ground to make ends meet. Poverty really leaves a mark on you. Even when you have a lot of money, you still try to be thrifty. Story 24. When I came to this country 50 years ago, I had $80, 2 underwear, and what I had on me. I sat right outside the terminal on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. A guy in a banged-up delivery truck stopped at the light and shouted, "Hey, you want to work?" Tony Pascual, rest in peace, my best friend. Story 25. I worked whatever job I could find. Fresh roadkill deer are plentiful in the deep cold winter. I did a lot of fishing and hunting to save on food. I had friends who helped get vegetables and other items that were being thrown out. Story 26. Learned how to do wonders with inexpensive groceries, or ate the children's menu a lot. You bike or walk, use public transportation, and visit the local library. You learn to make new outfits by mixing and matching what you already have, and you keep pushing until it ends. With hard work, it does end. Best of luck. Story 27. Firstly, learn how to cook at least some basic dishes. There are plenty of free videos available, but the key is to try and keep trying until you improve. Secondly, do your shopping at an immigrant grocery store. You can usually find bulk staples like rice and pulses or beans there, and the prices on most items are lower than at big-name grocery stores. This does not apply to everything, so shop around if you have options. When I was broke in college and my parents cut me off, I had to feed myself on $2 per day for a while around 2010. I made ends meet by riding my bike to the Indian grocery store and learning how to make basics like dal, rice, and chapati or flatbreads. I ate almost exclusively Indian food, although I have no Indian heritage, for about 6 months, and it was actually great. You can vary the same ingredients a lot using different mixes of spices, which are also very inexpensive at immigrant grocery stores. Through it all, I learned to cook by feel and instinct rather than by recipe, which has improved my life in many ways. I still love South Asian food and make it all the time. Story 28. Stopped smoking marijuana. Donated plasma as often as possible. Sold what I could afford. Sometimes men on dating applications would approach me for situations ending in compensation, and I was tempted but did not go down that road. Story 29. I ate a lot of Chipotle. You can get 2 filling, nutritious meals out of 1 burrito bowl for about $10. Story 30. 2 liters of the cheapest soda available and the largest bags of chips. Cases of ramen noodles to get enough calories to function. Story 31. Grit, determination, self-sacrifice, and belief in myself. I have said it before on Reddit. I have been kicked down below ground level several times in life, but I have always scratched, clawed, and dug myself out of the hole that life dug for me. Story 32. For me, it was just to learn how to live without it, but if I ever got the chance again, I would never live like that, and I have not. Story 33. At my lowest, I used to steal a sweater from Walmart, take it to another Walmart to return it for store credit to eat. Back then, they did not require a receipt. I do not know about today. This was almost 20 years ago. Story 34. I had parents who were willing to help me until I got back on my feet and found a job. Once I found a job, I paid my parents back for what they had given me when I needed their assistance. Not everyone can have this, and not everyone can be like this. But in my case, it worked out. Story 35. For $1, Macaroni and cheese is affordable. A treat would be to cut up a hot dog and add it in. Little Caesars 2 for 1 back then could last you 4 to 5 days. Story 36. I had a job and a car. My girlfriend at the time knew, and I would shower at her place. Her parents were strict, so I had to endure the California summer in my car, which was difficult. Every third week, I would get a hotel room and sleep in a bed. Eventually, I saved enough money to get an apartment. It was tough. I took my daughter to many parks so she could play. She wasn't even a year old yet, so play is a loose term. But I made it work. Story 37. Peanut butter and jelly is just as cheap as ramen when you break it down by sandwich. Sell the Xbox if you are truly broke and need to spend money to move on. For example, if your car broke down and you can't get to work. For fun, go on walks. You'll usually meet some cute girls with dogs. I like to fish if you can afford the gas to the nearest water, or, even better, if you are close enough to walk. Video games and television are also options. There is free television available through over-the-air broadcasts even if you don't pay for any services. Most of the time, though, I just download food delivery apps like DoorDash or Uber Eats and go make money. Fire is free to create too, and it makes for a decent night. Story 38. Moved back home for a year after college. Saved money and worked 2 jobs. Had very little social life, mostly going to the $2 theater and free hiking. Finally, I was able to get my own place and grow up. Of course, that only works if home is a safe and good place to return to. For me, it was. You can also rent with several housemates. Splitting costs helps. Learning to cook and avoiding unnecessary spending on restaurant meals makes a huge difference. Story 39. Donated plasma regularly. Walked confidently into a mid-range business traveler hotel and ate their continental breakfast, also taking extra leftovers for lunch. Story 40. Doing freelance jobs on Fiverr and trying to spend as little as possible. I was very frugal with my money and tried to buy groceries that would last longer and allow me to prepare different meals. This was in college, by the way. Story 41. I only had enough money to pay 2 months' rent. I figured it would also cost me the same amount to return to India and live with my parents for a few months until my job start date arrives. So I flew overseas and enjoyed myself for a few months. Story 42. It's incredible to hear how much drive people have when they are broke. I was broke for 1 year. I applied to over 500 jobs, most of which were basic labor positions. I am a University of Toronto graduate and used to be a manager at Amazon. Finally, I got a cashier job. During that year, I was broke, had $10,000 in credit card debt, and was jobless. I survived on 1 piece of KFC chicken with lots of rice or just aglio e olio. You become very depressed, sleep all day, and wonder why society rejects you. Story 43. Visit your local food pantry. They exist for a reason. Drink only water, skip breakfast, have a light lunch of vegetables and fruits, and stews and pasta for dinner because they are easy to store and reheat from frozen. Eat plenty of chicken and rice. Drive only when necessary. Save as much water and electricity as possible. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.